And okay.
Okay, so here we are. Welcome everybody to the January 24th, 7 o'clock meeting of the Plan of Conservation and Development Subcommittee meeting of the City of Milford's Planning and Zoning Board. Call to order, and Meg, if you would call the roll.
I don't see Mr. Castagnoli. Mr. Cater,
Present.
Mr. Mortimer,
Present.
and Chairman Cush.
I'm here early as usual. So I would say thank you for coming to the meeting, and we did have Adam had provided a sort of a survey, and I don't know, I didn't spend as much time on it as I would have liked to. Just got caught up, and I'm sure everyone had a varying degree of what attention they could give it. But if we could just hand it over to Adam now and let him run through it. And if we need to, take a deeper dive on anything, he will help direct us into what he found out about what the responses were.
Yeah, thank you very much, and thank you everybody who was able to sort of give their feedback. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen right now, and sometimes takes my computer a minute or two to get everything going. It was fun a minute ago, but while that's sort of catching up, basically what we're going to do is we're going to go through. I've got a presentation set up that is going to allow me to sort of take some live notes so that you all can see what I'm writing, and we can kind of all make sure we're on the same page about things. And what I've done is I've gone through and selected all of the topics or focus areas that people said either should be eliminated or need further discussion. That said, I understand that the directions on that weren't perfectly clear, and some of these we may be skipping past because there's no need for discussion on them. That's okay, because we've got 90 or so topics here that we need to cover, so we're gonna have to move relatively quickly. Will you all just let me know when my computer is caught up and you guys can see my...
Yeah, we can see it.
You can see it?
Yep, no for POCD, yep.
Great. Now the question is can I control it? Yeah, there we go.
We're on the, yeah, there we go. Yep.
There we go.
I don't see anything but a black screen. Is that what you're seeing, or?
Well, no, you should be able to see it now, Jim.
Let me stop sharing and let me try resharing it again, because
I can see the open space narrative.
okay, let's try this one more time, and let me actually try something different here.
And Meg, you can note that Mr. Castagnoli has acquiesced to grace us with his presence.
At exactly 7:03.
Okay, let's go. Let's see, is this? I apologize. My computer sometimes has got some problems with the share screen via Zoom.
Was that you? Because I thought my computer went out.
I see that now. I see the open space, your notes.
Okay. All right.
Do you have
Hopefully
that too,
this.
John? Can you see it, John?
I'm good now.
Okay, Joe?
Yes, I can see it.
Okay,
Great.
good. We're great then.
So it is still going to be a little bit of problematic on my side, but I can take some notes on paper. And we're recording the discussion as well, so I can make sure to go back to this if we need to. So for the, what I'd like to do is go through these sort of point by point, and if anybody wants to just sort of jump in there, we don't have to wait turns on these. What we'll do is just kind of talk through them point by point, and then try to kind of keep the pace moving. So does anybody want to talk about why this particular recommendation needed further discussion?
Well, I just, what is the, this narrative? Is this taken from the previous POCD?
Yeah, this is taken from the most recent edit. So this is the previous POCD with edits from Dave and myself. So based on the conversations that you all have had, Dave went through and edited it. So this is sort of the most recent version that we've got, basically.
Yeah, and it comes from, if I recall, I'm calling it the wrong thing. I want to call it the to-do list, the goals from the last plan, and people might remember that we had previously gone through that and cleaned that up, a lot, and we'd made recommendations a while back to remove things, which we did, and this must have been an item that was left in. So I guess if someone has a question about it, I mean, now is the time to say, hey.
Yeah, I mean, I think that for me, I would probably word it differently, but I don't think we need to dive into that now. If I have bandwidth and space, I would present something to you, David, to
Okay.
present to the whole board to see if it's something I think rings that bell a little bit with more clarity. But it's fine for now,
If I'm not mistaken, that's actually my language. In answer to what is already in there. And yeah, you're right, Jim. We didn't have a lot of time, so I just tried to get the idea across. Wasn't intended to be final language. So if it could be
No,
cleaned
that's
up,
fine. Yeah,
awesome.
I mean, this is good. I mean, it's where we want to be at this point.
Okay, so we've got a lot of these to get through, so let's keep moving on these if I can.
And just so you know, Adam, if we need to readdress this at a future meeting, we can too. So, I mean, I know our time is limited, but don't feel
Absolutely.
we can't give adequate time to something that's relevant.
David, I'm wondering if you might do me a favor. Do you have this presentation?
Yep, let me, it's in my email, so let me go.
Do you mind sharing it? Because I apologize. So everybody's aware, there's a graphics card issue with my computer and and Zoom, and there's seemingly no solution. And sometimes when I restart my computer, it works, and I tried that before this meeting, but it didn't seem to work today. So the next one, and I'll just start reading until David's able to pull this up, is the city should continue to apply for the DEP Open Space Grant Program and other grant programs if property becomes available that meets the state or local criteria as identified in this section. Are there any concerns or things that people want to note about that recommendation?
No, I mean, again, the deeper discussion is about, how to give it teeth. But there's definitely, I don't personally have any problem with trying to get grant money.
Okay.
And please, everyone else, just jump in as you see fit.
I think the overriding concern is getting this document more publicity, more circulate it more, and as it is, the language and everything I think is pretty close to what we all want. It's just a matter of how can we get it to be followed. That's my.
Yep.
Yeah, I agree, John, and I'm sorry, Adam, to take a detour here, but we did take a quick look at a potential schedule, and it seems to me to not address your feelings as well as mine, that we should have a more robust public engagement, both plan, schedule, and time allotment.
Okay, so let's save that discussion for the end, and we can always come back and have that discussion again, because I do want to make sure that we kind of get through. We do have a lot of recommendations here.
Yep.
So
Okay.
the next one is the city should purchase property through a local open space fund. This was flagged as something of
Right,
concern.
which we do. We have that. So I don't know that we need this as a goal in the plan because that fund has been in existence for more than 10 years. And when the planning and zoning board approves new subdivisions and re-subdivisions, if they're not making an open space a donation of land, they're making an open space donation of funding, which goes into that account.
Okay. Any recommendations that you all have about any areas where this fund open space should be sort of targeted? Or is this sort of generally just a sort of across the board?
Well, as we go further down, don't we talk about land that's contiguous with other land as a priority?
Yeah, so the next recommendation is prioritizing properties where the sort of 7 designated greenbelt areas and to locate public access point and greenways where possible. Is that still a general recommendation that everybody is comfortable with?
I'm comfortable with that. It sounds logical.
Okay.
Yeah, no dissent.
Great. And David, I'm just going to
What's the next?
share the PowerPoint with you again. It'll take a minute to go. Oh, perfect. So
Hey,
the next
David?
one,
Sorry to interrupt. Is there any way you can make that bigger?
Let's see. I'd have to, let me change.
It's just really hard
keep
to
going
read.
to the,
Oh,
keep
how's
going
that?
to the
Go the other
all the
way.
way, going out to the left of that. There's a present mode, should make it full screen.
What are you seeing, Meg? Just
Okay.
It's a small portion of the screen.
Okay, hold on. Let me, I just have to move it. I've got to get rid of that one. And oops, I hope you're all still there. And I clicked on the wrong one and I lost it, so I got to bring it back.
I'm just your lucky charm, David.
Yeah. So let me go there, let me go there.
You're probably just gonna have to switch, David,
Yeah.
which screen you're sharing.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing.
So while he's doing that, because we do have to kind of keep moving here. Anything about developing a priority management, maintenance, and restoration plan for open spaces? Any,
I don't really think that's in our purview. I mean, that's really an issue for the city, right? It's an issue for Public Works. I don't think it's up to us to direct it. Anybody disagree with me?
No, we have an open space manager. No,
Yes, we do.
And he works for the Public Works Department, and it's their responsibility to maintain.
Jeremy is actually his own. I think he works for the mayor, actually.
Who?
Jeremy Grant is our open space coordinator.
Oh, that's right. We had Mr. Johnson move to.
That's right. I was going to say we've been working on this so long. We had Mr. Johnson before.
Yeah. He now works directly for the Public Works Director.
Yeah, and I'm having trouble. Let me try again, because what's happening is it's popping up on another screen, but then I can't switch screens. So let me try that again. And my cursor keeps disappearing. Why is my cursor disappearing? Oh, come on.
well, short of creating a committee to address the situation, I don't think anything would need to be changed personally.
Yeah,
Great.
go ahead and just do it orally, Adam, for a few minutes.
okay, So the next one is identifying locations for dog parks. Do we still think that that is something that needs to be included in here?
I'm not, I hate to be, I don't want to dominate this, but I'm not sure that needs a priority. I mean, maybe there's disagreement with that, but just, that's
I mean,
just
I think
my 2 cents.
I think it's low level stuff that is really part of the aldermen and and the neighborhoods to push that. I don't think it needs, I see this
Right.
as a 30,000-foot look at least, and this is the 500-foot look.
Yeah, right. Somebody wants a dog park, they'll speak up.
Great.
Can you see
So
it
the
now?
next one is all about community gardens. This is something that came up a lot throughout the plan in different sections. Any thoughts about these and the importance of,
Yeah, I personally think it's very important. I think this is something that changes the direction of land use, and I think this is at a high level look. And whether or not we want to underpin the narrative a little bit going forward another moment in time, but obviously my comments, having addressed the survey, included that in a number of locations.
Yeah, I also responded on this topic, and my neighbor has one, and I encourage that sort of thing. I don't know what the city can do to help create others, but
Yeah, there's, we do take property for blight. And I know that down in my neighborhood, they took blighted property and turned it into a little park, which is great.
Mhm.
But there's also opportunity for growing food, like putting fruit trees on it, something.
Yeah.
Well,
Yep.
a park with some apple trees. I don't know, a combo. But I think it should be. But I do see this document as important in pointing the arrows in the direction of that target.
okay, that's great. We can kind of keep that in, and what I'm hearing is maybe add a little bit more sort of justification to that. So, so the next one was a conversation about Fowler Field, and the inclusion of a greenway along the river, sort of reconfiguring the site as it currently sits. Is this still something
This is-
worthy of inclusion?
I mean, I think-
Is there other discussion?
I personally think it's important to, rather than pick a project, but to put it under, I know we did have a consultant at one time come in and talk about that piece of property, and I've been at land use symposium where people say that's one of the most underutilized pieces of dirt in Connecticut, playing tennis on, nothing wrong with tennis, but playing tennis at the bottom of a waterfront harbor is, I think it deserves more attention in trying to find its highest and best use. I don't know that a particular set of, granular rerouting of this or that is our position, but I think maybe putting some weight behind maybe another study.
Yeah.
And I would actually take this out because the city did do this over the last 10 years. They rerouted the road. They created a bike lanes going through there. They reconfigured the field. Did they maximize what people might like to see? Maybe not, but they did move the fields around and change the roadway. And
Yeah, I think that this particular narrative is, maybe just outdated, but it's also, I think, important to put Fowler Field at a very high level look at what we can do. Obviously we had a public hearing and we had a consultant 8 or 10 years ago, but now it's 8 or 10 years later, and there's different interests and different opportunities. And I think that it is underutilized space and we should put it on a high importance in terms of getting it addressed through either consultancy or more public hearings or something.
Yeah, different.
Right. So what I'm hearing is Fowler Field is still very important, sort of identifying a, sort of better uses at the location is important, but we need to sort of get rid of some of the recommendations that are specific here and talk more generally about sort of improving the area and maybe laying out some steps for how to go about doing that, hiring a consultant and starting to develop sort of an action plan for the location. Is that fair?
I think that's good, either or consultancy or just a series of public outreach. And, probably a consultancy is going to be
Yeah.
the most effective. There's a lot of time spent on public engagement that is not fruitful. I mean, it doesn't end in real concrete results. And I don't think this is going to be quick, but it should always be on the front burner,
Yep.
I think.
We can skip the next one. And this one is sort of some of the thoughts that were shared in general about this is sort of, planting fruit trees on public land. This question about defining a little bit more where the funds are going to come from for this. And then somebody noted that Eisenhower Park needed some discussion. So if people want to just sort of share their thoughts on this.
I put in the Eisenhower Park language. I just think that's a great resource. That is, we've done some certain things with it that are, really good. I think that property though is still underutilized. So.
I agree. I think that's in the same category as Wilcox Park, is that it's a gem. I mean, I'm not saying I want to, put hotels up there, but it's a gem.
Right.
And it can be, it's an underutilized asset. I do think that, having read some stuff about some Northern European countries that do a lot of fruit trees and public food, growing that's not, full agriculture where you're tilling and fertilizing and all that stuff. Fruit trees sort of just grow on their own. There is a thought that there is some potential expense in spent fruit falling on the ground and who's going to pick it up. And, I think that if there was some political will behind the concept, a plan could be developed. So develop a plan, which may very well include, high school kids in a particular program, or the 4-H club if it exists anymore.
Mhm.
Yep. That's something we can certainly talk about. Another thing that was mentioned that's not on here, but I'm realizing was added, is the discussion of the amphitheater. Can somebody give me a little bit more information about that?
We're talking about the building across the street from Eisenhower Park?
No, behind the library.
Oh, okay.
There used to be the band shell.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember back in the day, Walt Whitney. Yep.
Yes, that would be,
That's right. Walt Whitney.
so Adam, that idea came up as one of the things to use for Fowler Field would be
Got
an
it.
amphitheater back there.
Got it.
And
Got
then
it.
as an alternative to that, then Eisenhower Park.
Got it. And then it sounds like, the sort of, John, you started this whole thing out, but sort of a discussion about sort of funding and implementation is an important part of all of this. And that's something that we can certainly focus on going forward.
Yeah, I feel strongly about this.
And again, I think it comes back to, what's our role and what's our opportunity to change to change things. And it's really, this is a roadmap, and we don't have a budget to do anything. So we can advocate for it. We can, go back to, when we have special permits and special exceptions to say, in lieu of sidewalks, you can plant 500 apple trees.
Mhm.
There's only certain things that we can do. The Eisenhower Park, I mean, it is a visioning document, so to propose more study, more public engagement. I know we spent a lot of time 10 or 15 years ago in Eisenhower Park, and we ended up with some kind of recreation up there. And
Okay. So we'll fill that out a little bit. So the next section that we're going to talk about is the coastal resources in Long Island Sound. So if we go to the next slide here, the first recommendation for discussion is that the city should mandate flood compliant design for new and substantially improved structures.
yeah, I think that already exists in terms of if you're in the flood zone, you have to have flood vents and raise the house above. I think this is already encoded in our.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, I definitely had to do that. So yes, it is.
Okay.
I mean, I think that, the flooding and coastal surge and inundation is a topic. And I think that our building code is addressing what they can. I mean, in terms of planned, big redevelopment near the shore would, I mean, I don't see it as really in our bailiwick.
I mean, I would say climate change and its effects on a coastal city like Milford it's a topic that can't be escaped. So, but this is addressed specifically already.
Yeah, and I think you're right, John. I think that's touched on in a half a dozen locations. So maybe as we go through this, we'll see that things that I may have addressed in terms of sustainability were touched on in more than one location, and it could be that there's some economy that can be developed in combining some things.
Yep, I think that's certainly something I think we can look at across the board is, consolidating some of the recommendations and making sure that everything is all in a similar place. So the next recommendation or the next sort of point of topic is becoming carbon neutral by 2030, and that homeowners should sort of shoulder the bulk of improvemements. Do people want to talk about that?
I mean, I think that it becomes it's a goal. It's a high level goal. I don't know if homeowners should carry the bulk. I think that we have probably the greatest opportunity in our public infrastructure, right? All our public buildings, all our public lands. I think that is, I don't think we put it on homeowners. There's business owners and landowners that are apartment buildings and stuff that, so I don't think homeowners should be kind of plucked out of the mix as being the most responsible. But, and again, the goal is a goal. I don't even know if it's.
I don't know if we want to like target them like this. It's kind of aggressively negative, I would say. I think we can clean up that language. Yeah, homeowners should definitely do something.
You could, I think there's probably, if you put 40 grand of your own money into some renewable energy or, whatever, solar on your roof, I don't think we're adding 40 grand to your property tax. So I think we do have some ways to incentivize it. I don't think we can do much in individual homeowners, but we can do stuff as it'll come out as we go forward. Okay. Is that there are some certain things that we can do when we're approving commercial and multifamily and mixed use developments to mandate that. And we have some new language of the state. So maybe carbon neutral doesn't fit under this. Maybe there's one of those places where we consolidate some of the sustainability thinking with with other areas. I mean, coastal flooding is really an infrastructure, and
We can get there.
resilience.
Yeah, we'll figure out sort of organization as we go. Did anybody, I don't know if anybody wanted to share a little bit more about, because this was something that came out of the survey about sort of a homeowners sort of shouldering the bulk. Is this sort of a perspective that the city should not be sort of subsidizing improvements? Is that the major idea?
I think the city should definitely be subsidizing. I think language such as homeowners could really could make a significant difference in tandem with the city and the state in improving
Okay.
our, something like that, because
Okay.
putting it like
Oh, well.
this is kind of negative.
Adam,
Yeah.
I don't think that we should be subsidizing, okay? This adds to the value of their property, and they're the ones who should shoulder most of the cost, as this statement says, okay? Nobody's
Well, I
doing,
mean, not to interrupt, Joe, but I mean, I added solar panels, totally my cost. I may or may not get, some people don't want them. So that's not a definite plus if I ever sell this house. But just saying homeowners should shoulder the bulk of improvement, when a homeowner reads that, it's like,
well, no,
feel warm and fuzzy. That's my only point.
well, I mean, as far as flooding and coastal, that's what I was addressing. Anything to do with that, I mean, that's improving your property, but it doesn't do anything for anybody else's property. And I think that if
There's, in terms of,
Well, hold on, Jim, hold on. I want Joe to be able to finish real quickly here. Go ahead.
I mean, I think that once you get near, the flood zone, that, yeah, the homeowners are responsible, not the city, not the state. Okay, it's the homeowner.
well, they are.
I mean, the federal government's already providing flood insurance. Okay,
Yeah,
Where
they already
most-
are. Yeah, yeah. right
I
now-
know that. I
Yeah,
know
but we're
that,
not
Jim.
changing- We're not writing a check here, Joe.
Well,
All
I
we're doing
know
is putting a
that,
Target up.
but it says homeowners should shoulder bulk of improvement. I agree with that.
Yeah, you know what?
Okay, so
Maybe they should, but
There's also a thought that the more people we have in compliance, whether we finance it and get paid back with a lien on the house if they don't pay it, I think we should be loaning people cheap money to raise their houses, because if we get our insurance goes down, so there's benefits to everybody. But anyway, so that's really.
I'm sorry, that whole section, Jim, that you kind of went up sideways a bit.
Right?
did
Yeah,
I-
we didn't hear what you said, Jim.
it's
Okay.
okay. Let me just say this.
Yeah.
We don't have to figure this out right now. I think what we can start to do is and I think there's some guidance that I might be able to bring around this, where there are, especially when it comes to flooding and coastal surge and so inundation issues, there's a way to think about them as sort of like large neighborhood, sort of large area protection efforts, which are often very frequently funded through state and federal money, because homeowners aren't going to pay that. And you're talking about, protecting core areas or key locations. And then, Joe, what you're sort of talking about, if I understand it correctly, is sort of property owner by property owner sort of improvements, and that those are sort of the responsibility of the property owner themselves. And as far as I understand, you all do not have a fund right now, or plan to have a fund to support the flood protection efforts. Is
That's-
that
Yeah, the city has only gotten grants for itself to fix and do flood prevention and on city properties. And
Okay.
and basically that's seawall repair. I believe the city applied for one of those sort of area grants, but was denied because Milford wasn't considered strategic in terms of coastal infrastructure. You know, New Haven, for instance, got a grant to do that because there's vital infrastructure that actually provide, the whole state gets fed through New Haven. And, you know, some other, I think Bridgeport had some stuff, but yeah, it's an issue that, like you said, doing it by area would be the way to do it on a broader basis. If we can get a grant that, you know, someone will give us.
Yeah. So let me work on some language for this section, and then we'll get it back to you all for review, and then, you know, maybe have we can have a little bit more concrete discussion of it.
So if I got just one thing quickly,
Yep.
my home was washed out on Sandy. I didn't get anything from the city, but FEMA did help. So we don't have to include the city in this, you know, but I just think that language is overly harsh. That's all.
Yep, and we'll figure out a way to thread the needle on this one. So the next one is just sort of a comment that somebody added in the coastal access for all residents is just access walkways to the shore. Is this anything that anybody?
But
Well,
we
I
have
think there's another section that talks about, there is a lot of access that is not well signed. I don't think there's adequate information either on our web presence or physically on sites that let people know that this is your property, your right to go down to this particular location. So I think that's something that, again, is more of a public works issue, but we could, again, put a target up.
Yeah, maintaining signage is key. This has been an ongoing issue for at least 20 years because the city, we do put up the signage and then the signage disappears quite quickly.
The old black spray paint. So yeah, wayfinding is wayfinding in general. I think we can talk about at one point. Downtown's important, around you know, the public beaches, the main public beaches, as well as the public access points to you know, whether it's Mondo Pond or whether it's the Housatonic River at Great River, or whether it's access at Ocean Avenue on the West Shore. But so
Right.
wayfinding is an issue that I think is a public works issue, but it is something we can point the arrow at.
Yep. So let's go to the next slide, which is that conversation that we're talking about here is adequate signage.
Okay.
So why don't we go to the slide after that, which is reconfigure Fowler Field, which I think is a sort of redundant conversation from what we had previously. And I think that's one thing, just as a aside here, that we'll do in the next pass of this is try to take out some of the redundancy and put in a little bit more cross-referencing so that things are organized in the same place. So the next one was improve water quality. That's the sort of strategy. And this was continue Island Wetlands Agency review of development projects to ensure that inland wetlands and watercourses are protected.
Yeah, I don't think we need to have that there only because that's what they do. And it's, of course, it's going to continue. It's as long as, you know, it's by statute. So.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think I don't see it's really in our, it's not in our purview. I think it's, these are addressed in a lot of other areas.
Yeah.
Joe, do you agree?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So let's keep going to the low impact design stormwater management practices were practical for new projects and adaptive reuses.
Well, you know,
Is this already addressed in our building department?
yeah,
Just like rain gardens and things of that ilk.
Yeah, exactly. It's sort of stormwater management that doesn't use heavy infrastructure and tries to manage the stormwater on site rather than, you know, transmit it somewhere else.
Okay, again, having gone through this recently, that's already, that's in there.
Yeah, that's looked at, for each new, structure that goes up because of the MS4 requirements now. So we're getting better at tracking that, through the engineering department and inland wetlands.
Okay,
Well, so this is good to have, like, if we have a proposed development of whatever mixed use or whatever it is, to say that, there's our preference, if it's a special permit or a special exception, we can say, yeah, if you do impervious asphalt, or if you do on-site management. So this does underpin our ability to make a difference by pointing out that it is consistent with the POCD. I'm not sure the
Okay.
specific language is strong enough, but
Yeah, and just to make everyone clear that, yeah, when a new structure goes onto a property, they have to maintain, they have to keep the water on their site. So,
right.
the heavy, when the term heavy infrastructure is used, you're talking about infiltrators and things in the ground, versus rain gardens. But then again, some of the lighter, things like rain gardens aren't always practical, especially along the shoreline where you have so many buildings that are so close together.
Yeah. And
but-
with a high water table, definitely.
Exactly.
So
is
let's
there a
move on to
benefit to
this.
having it here or no?
Say that again.
Is there a benefit to having this here, or is it redundant to our existing?
Practices. It may be redundant to and I only say that because I know that to utilize it is on a very site by site specific basis. And I know when the city engineer reviews these things, they sort of look at that and try to figure out with the applicant, what the best scenario is.
So thinking about this as a strategy is not necessarily appropriate, but maybe in a little bit more discussion of sort of the vision and what is maybe helpful, as you say, Jim, in the in the instances of special exceptions. So let me look at the language around this and how it's organized, and we'll kind of go
Yeah,
from
I
there.
think you're right. I know you're looking at redundancy and how to consolidate similar and very similar efforts and directions that we can consolidate. Yeah.
Great. So let's go to maintain existing public stormwater infrastructure per state stormwater management requirements. Is this also sort of redundant or unnecessary?
I
I
think
think
it's, yeah.
All right.
Joe, you agree?
Yes.
All right. Joe, I like the brevity. So let's go to the next one. So this is about reducing the Canadian geese population near the upper and lower duck ponds.
Yeah, this has nothing to do with land use.
Yeah.
This has
All right.
nothing to do with planning and zoning. This
Right.
is an issue for the neighbors to chip in and buy a dog.
Yes, and I believe they already put coyote structures up
Cutouts.
to scare
Yeah.
them off. So
Okay.
shouldn't be there. I agree.
Great. So the next one on improved water promote organic lawn care practices to reduce high nitrogen runoff into the city's storm drain system that leads to the Long Island Sound.
Yeah,
mean,
I think that's very important.
Well, this is not P and Z either.
True.
I mean,
Yeah,
this is controlling landscape.
Yeah, and I'm sure your company uses all organics, Joseph.
Of course they do.
Of course.
We actually have a private not-for-profit in town that promotes this. Ann Berman's group, the Environmental Concerns Coalition. I'm trying to get the name right. They give an award. They give an award every year to the person who has like the nicest Freedom Lawn that doesn't use
Nice.
chemicals.
Do we know, is there a particular problem with nitrogen runoff in the Long Island Sound? Is there
Yes,
an
there is.
environmental?
very bad, serious too. Hypoxia is incredibly bad on Long Island Sound. It's spread further and further on the sound. So there's parts of Long Island Sound that are completely dead, no life at all. So though you guys may think that doesn't matter, this is quality of life in Milford. If there's no fish out there, there's no crabs, no lobsters, it could affect people's livelihoods and people enjoying themselves on the sound.
Sure.
So even as far as fertilizer and the geese, that also gets into the water system as well. So I know you guys are taking it lightly, but that could affect the quality of life in Milford, maybe more than you're thinking.
I'm
I
just,
have to-
you know, and I don't disagree with you at all, Jim. I just don't know if it's a planning and zoning issue or if it's a board of aldermen that says, you know, we are prohibiting anything but organic, non-toxic fertilizers, and they could do that. They might have a problem in enforcing it, but I just don't know if it's in our
I think,
ability.
Jim,
I mean, what do we do
Jim.
when somebody, how can we affect this? If somebody
Jim.
comes in with, you know, 4 apartments and we say, well, yeah, you have to agree to only use organics on your lawn care. I don't know if we have the authority to do that. That's my only issue.
Jim.
Not that I don't think it's important. I do
Jim.
think it's important. I just don't know if we have the ability to really make a difference.
It would be the ordinance committee of the Board of Aldermen. They'd have to pass an ordinance.
Yeah, I mean, being an aspirational document, I think if we just make mention and leave it at that, we can't do anything about it. But people looking at our city, seeing this, like, oh, they're concerned about that. And we are.
Yeah, I mean,
So I
let's-
think that would be,
So
I
guys,
like that. I like
so-
that sort of a part of it in like the mission statement of the whole thing. Instead of
So-
having it to be a subsection as part of improving water quality, it can be part of our mission statement to say that part of what we're trying to do is protect Long Island Sound from nitrogen runoff, you know, and just include that statement or something similar in our basic marching orders, our basic preamble or whatever you want to call it.
right.
Yeah,
We're
so-
striving for this, right? So if developers have that information in hand, you know, maybe they make a couple changes in order to get what they want.
Yeah, exactly. When it's a special exception or a special permit, when we have more leeway, then it's like, yeah, well, you know, by the way, if you want an extra 2 units, then why not
Yeah.
commit to,
Yeah, but
So
but
guys-
Jim, I don't know how a developer can dictate to a landscaper who comes in when he leaves the project. How can he dictate that who's going to be landscaping? and
I
what the
don't know.
so hold on, guys. Is my mic working? I got to jump in here. I
Yes.
feel like you're moving even quicker than this. What
Yes.
I'm hearing here is that the core concern is about the nitrogen runoff and the water quality and the impact that that's going to have on the quality of life in the community, and that getting into the details about this in sort of the lawn care strategy is getting too far into the weeds. I
Yes.
certainly think that, you know, there are development practices and infrastructure elements that can positively or negatively impact nitrogen levels, and that's something to think about. But maybe the way to go about this is to make a recommendation that, you know, that a real plan be put in place for addressing this. And, you know, one thing that I want to remind everybody here is that, you know, the recommendations that come out of the POCD can be guidance for your governing body. They can, you know, pick up some of these recommendations and, you know, either fund them or adopt ordinances to move them forward. So let me put together some language here that's a little bit higher level around these recommendations, but that doesn't lose the importance of water quality and the impact that it has on the quality of life in the community.
Excellent.
Okay.
Thank you.
Great.
Well done.
So let's keep moving. Well, I haven't written it yet, but thank you, Jim. I appreciate
No,
it.
no, no, no. I see what you're doing and you're listening and you're Put it all together. Yep, go.
We're moving here. So the next one is this: coordinate with the State Department of Environmental Protection and the DOT to install sediment ponds adjacent to I-95. Is this getting too much in the weeds? Is this something that is still
It's in the
relevant?
weeds. I think it's very much in the weeds.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. I don't disagree with the strategy, but you know, I don't think we need to go there.
All right. So let's keep moving here. Next one is on agriculture. And so this is just a continue to identify and encourage participation in the PA 490 agricultural tax credit program.
Yeah, and that's done through the city's tax assessor's office. That's all coordinated through there.
And so part of what we're doing here and what we'll do in the near future with regard to review of the POCD and the public engagement is, I think, increase public engagement in every aspect of planning and zoning, POCD being one. Various regulation changes, as we've seen, there's been success. More outreach in terms of allowing people to, or getting people to understand that they can get a tax break. If somebody has 6 or 8 acres, not that there's that many of them, but if they want to dedicate something to agriculture, then they can get a tax break. And it doesn't even have to be 6 or 8 acres. So there's a mechanism to just communication piece, communicate this, and then a public engagement piece to this, because it is valuable to people for their money, and it's valuable to grow food locally.
Great. So let's go to the next one, which is to obtain easements and deed restrictions from individual landowners who wish to voluntarily encumber their property. I take it that this is, again, the same thing. It's about increasing the information that these options exist, making sure that people are aware of them. That's the main focus.
Yeah, this and this particular language is probably not the most effective. It seems to be legalese a little bit with easements and stuff. So, directing them to a process, something that's an easy button for people who just want to think about it and explore it. So again, this is a consolidation piece.
Okay, great. So the next one is to utilize open space acquisition tools to target the acquisition of farmland, especially those with prime farmland soils and CT important farmland soils. Is this part of the same?
This seems misdirected, right? Why do we want to acquire a farm that we're not going to run? Right?
Yeah, I agree with you.
I mean, unless you want to go, and I wouldn't mind if we went into the farming business, but I don't think there's the political will for it. Grow food and give it away for free. I think that's a good idea. But I think this is misdirected in a sense. I mean, we can maybe track where the good soil is and be able to protect it somehow. I don't know. This is
that's more
an existing farm.
That's more the easement. So that's helpful. So the next one is to preserve the current zoning, or should say, yes, preserve the current zoning regulations that permit farms and farming uses.
Yeah, I don't think we have to say it. Do you, David?
No, I mean, because we have it, and it's just, if the board at any time wants to change its regulations to make it, make it easier to be classified as a farm or not. I mean, that's up to the board, but I mean, I mean, I don't think any of our farms are under threat through our regulations.
So Adam, this could be, maybe a lot of this stuff that is sort of redundant or really out of our ability to affect on an individual basis could be part of the mission statement. Right. Yep. So this doesn't have to be, protecting Milford Farms doesn't have to be a featured heading, but preserve the current.
Yeah. Yep.
somehow included in an overall higher look narrative. So maybe a lot of these things, when we were talking about consolidating, maybe a lot of this stuff becomes part of the overriding mission statement or narrative, and doesn't need to have a, you know,
Yep.
a heading
Right.
and an A, B, C, and D.
Yeah, we're not writing legislation, right? We're just kind of predicting
Yep.
direction. So, yeah, I
Yeah.
agree.
Same information, same focus, just more concise and I think more accessible, right? So if
Yep.
somebody reads 4 paragraphs, they understand kind of a higher level look, instead of reading a 1 paragraph narrative and then never even going into the document to see 75 line items and headings with an A, B, C, and D that they'll never read.
Yep, that makes sense. So the next one here is just about promoting local farms through things like the farm brochure,
And I,
supporting with grants.
yeah, I don't know that we need that, because I think our community development office does that, as well as I believe the state does that, because the farmers market in Milford gets state support
Okay.
for promotion.
Yeah, I agree. I think that maybe at one point in an appendix, there can be 20 or 30 items with a web connection, to
Right.
somebody's local farm collective that is, we have these CSAs or whatever, and be
Yeah.
able to take some of the higher level look from the intro paragraph down to the granular level of, here's where you can find out more stuff that doesn't have anything to do with planning and zoning.
Yep, that makes sense. So the next one is prioritize working farmland parcels for acquisition with agricultural leases available for a new generation of farmers. This kind of goes back, as I understand it, to the conversation about you guys aren't getting in the farm business.
Yeah, it sure seems like we have a big emphasis on farms, though.
Yeah.
Can I bring up one point though about that? I hear what you guys are saying. Maybe the thought process when this was brought up was you acquire the farmland so to prevent them being developed. So there probably is some concern. There's not that much farmland left in Milford. And if it goes up for sale, maybe the idea was to purchase it, to protect it, instead of having, like up on Wheels Farm Road, all those apartments up there have wiped out all the farmland, the
Yeah.
very little that was left by my father. So
Maybe
maybe
we
that's
could-
kind of the process.
Maybe we could fold it into the green space situation, because that's really what it is. So.
I think that's a good point, Jim and John. I think that there's also, I think a section, hopefully, I don't know if there is, but there can be a section of the POCD that lists a litany of things for the regulations subcommittee and the whole board to consider. So we can, as we go through this conversation, is put together a list and say, we want to protect existing farmland, and we can then create zoning regulations around that goal. And we can underpin that same desire as time goes on, maybe not this board, but maybe the next board with this direction can actually affect that change through regulations. So
Yep.
I think that's something that, Adam, I'd like to include, is that as this particular effort creates a wish list for regulation, language changes, zone changes, whatever we decide to call it. And we can then add something like incentivize farmland to stay farmland. I'm sure there's certain tax benefits that exist that we may be able to put all in a package so that it's understandable and the easy button for people to understand.
Yeah, so, and Jim, I think we can still talk about that. I mean, I think that is what conservation easements and farmland preservation easements are for. Basically you encumber properties so they maintain the way that they are, but you don't end up owning and operating a farm. It's
Yes,
a
understood.
restriction. I think we can take that. So
Understood.
the next one is just encouraging residents to start their own community gardens and planting fruit trees. I think these are topics that we've
Right.
already discussed.
So
So,
again, consolidation.
yeah, so what I want to highlight here is we are about a third of the way through the recommendations, and it is already 8 o'clock. So
Damn.
we got a little bit of a slow start on this. But I think it would be fair to say that we are not going to be able to tackle all of this in a single meeting because we still
No,
have a
I
fair
think you're
way to
right. I
go.
think you're right. And so that's, I do appreciate you trying to find a balance between moving us along and letting us think it through. So let us, we do plan on a 1 hour meeting, and I don't know if what people have specific other plans for tonight, but let's wrap it up fairly rapidly and let's pick a date for the second pass at this. And I think at the second pass, let's carve out the last 10 minutes. David, please shut us off at 50 minutes on this review and give us 10 minutes to look at a schedule where we have had time to vet and discuss potential schedule for public engagement and just completion, a Ken's policy of when we want to be done for the next meeting. And do you have a calendar in front of you, David, that you want to pick a date? I don't know why we went from Tuesday to Wednesday, but there was a reason for it. I forget.
It was my request. I've got meetings all night this week, and this was the only availability that I had.
Oh, okay, which is fine. I just didn't know. I thought I miscued.
So we could do next week if you want to keep the ball rolling, which would be fine. The catch is we also have to schedule a regulation subcommittee meeting. So I don't know when you want to do that.
So if we do our next regularly scheduled meeting is February 7th.
Yeah, that's a regular meeting. Yep.
All right, so
I would prefer to do, if we can do next week, February 1st.
that's Wednesday. You prefer Wednesday than the 31st?
Next week, Wednesday, the 1st is better for me. Yeah.
Okay. How about the committee? How about you guys? What do you think?
Fine with whatever everyone can agree on.
I got a thumbs up from everyone except Joe Castagnoli.
Wednesday's okay, yeah, the 1st, yeah.
Terrific.
Wednesday the
Great.
1st, James?
That works perfect. I'm going out of town February 14th through the 21st. So not that I should be holding you guys up, but that works perfect for me.
Great. And can we plan on an hour and a half just so we can make sure, hopefully we can get through all of these and then
How about
do
2
the
hours?
schedule?
We can do
No,
it.
let's try to keep it to an hour and a half. I think
There's
2
no
hours
way
is a
I'm
lot.
gonna have bandwidth for 2 hours after a day of work.
And would it help to start the meeting a little earlier?
That works for me.
Yeah, I'm just not sure if I'm out and about and I'm going from
Okay, then we'll leave it at,
wherever I
we'll leave it
am
at the
to the
regular time.
hotel. I just don't know what the traffic's gonna be like.
Yeah, we'll leave it at the regular time then. That's fine.
Okay, so that's it. So that's a plan. We'll plan for an hour and a half. Adam, good suggestion.
Great.
So then just, we'll leave again, 10 minutes or so at the end, to come up with our individual vision of where we are and where we want to be and what our meeting schedule and public engagement schedule should be going forward. And that's something actually, if you can carve out a little bandwidth, Adam, to talk about, I think this particular town and this particular committee has a great interest in public engagement. And so if you can start thinking along those lines as well, I don't think we're going to be satisfied with 1 or 2 meetings and that's it. I think it's
Okay.
going to be a much more robust plan for us. And if you can start thinking about that too, as you're doing your project plan, that will be helpful for the next meeting as well.
Yeah, I can talk with, I've already had a conversation with Dave about that, but we can have a little bit more of a conversation.
Yeah, I think the committee may have a bolder vision than David. I'm not 100% sure what David thinks, but I think that that members of the committee have a feeling that they really do want
Yep.
a robust public comment.
Why don't we do this then? Why don't we make sure in that time that we're sort of carving out at the end of this, that we have I have enough time to hear about what your thoughts are on public engagement, and our scope is to sort of support that, so I can kind of help you frame out what that might look like, and we can go from there. So
That's good. And if you could give that a little forethought, Adam, that'll
Yep.
help us, because you may very well have done something with a community that wanted 15 meetings and it turned out to be a total waste of time. Or, whether it's anecdotal or just history, or, your own expertise and experience would be helpful for us.
okay, I will.
So what's left on the agenda? Just meeting minutes?
I move to approve.
Second.
Second, all those in favor? Opposed?
Aye.
Is there anything else, David, on the agenda, that anything we need to?
No, and
Okay.
and the PowerPoint, I'm like, the PowerPoint presentation knocked one of my screens out. I have 3 different screens here, so the one that had the agenda on it got knocked out, so.
So quick last question, Adam. Do we have a second bite at the apple if we have some more bandwidth to go into the PowerPoint, the questionnaire?
Yeah, you guys can go through there and look at this. I mean, we've got, I would say we've got a majority of the recommendations there.
I just know I kind of hopped, skipped, and jumped through a little of it because I was getting interrupted with phone calls. But I do think that there's a real consensus that there is consolidation. So I think at one point when I hopped, skipped, and jumped, it was because I had already thought about it and addressed it.
Yeah,
But
and
I'll
like
look
I
at
said,
it again if there's still a bite at the apple.
go for it. I mean, we've got a lot of the recommendations here to talk about, and let's not forget that what we're going to do is sort of take this, do a pass on the POCD, and so you will also have an opportunity to comment and provide input at that point as well. So, but yeah, please go ahead and hop back in. It still should be live.
Thank you. Excellent. Well,
Great.
listen, thank you, everybody. Thank you, David, Meg, Joe, Jim, John, and Adam, and Blessing, and Donna for watching and listening. See ya.
Thank you all.
All right, thanks, everybody. Take care.
Have a good night.
You too. Good night.